Hi, my name is Dwayne Gathers, and welcome to Civitas LA, where we feature diverse and emerging leaders who make up this dynamic region and are creating community every day and building a better tomorrow. Each week, we hear from, learn from, and are inspired by a new generation of civic entrepreneurs who are forging a path forward in making Los Angeles a stronger, more resilient, and connected group of citizens. Now, more than ever, we aim to foster civic discourse, create community connections, and promote civic knowledge and engagement across the greater Los Angeles region while elevating diverse and emerging voices in this civic conversation. Los Angeles is one of the most important cities in the world. As a top global trading hub, it's truly a gateway to the world. Its ports account for over 40% of all goods coming into the U.S. Its airport is one of the top 5 busiest in the world. Over 4,000 foreign companies have established themselves in Los Angeles, investing billions in our region. And Los Angeles is the leading home for many foreign nationals outside of their place of birth. For example, LA has the largest Korean American community outside of Korea, Armenia, and many others. Connecting LA to the world and the world to LA is the World Trade Center Los Angeles. And we're delighted to have Stephen Cheung, president of the World Trade Center Los Angeles, with us today in the studio to discuss the importance of building this global community through commerce and its impact on our region. Stephen, welcome to Civitas LA.
Thank you, Dwayne. Pleasure to be here.
Well, we're grateful to have you here, and this is a very timely conversation because the region is celebrating World Trade Week this week and throughout the coming weeks. But first, before we get started, Stephen, we'd like to share with our audience a bit about you. So can you share a bit about your journey prior to your leadership position at the World Trade Center Los Angeles?
Sure. My background is actually a bit unconventional. I actually started as a social worker, working in the field of domestic violence and also community affairs. I actually started working for some elected officials and got involved with politics and working for example, previously Assemblymember Karen Bass, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti, as well as Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa. And through those paths, I started getting into international trade. And a couple years later, now here I am working for one of the most important global cities in the world. And it's been a fun journey so far.
No, that's outstanding. Give our audience a broad overview of the work of the World Trade Center Association, its mission and its vision.
Sure. The work for World Trade Center LA is quite simple. Our model is to attract, to educate, and to connect. So our focus is really about attracting foreign direct investment into this region to create an ecosystem of technology and also to create good jobs for our local communities. And the world, we see a lot of international companies around the world that can choose different locations. My job and our job at World Trade Center Los Angeles is to attract them, make sure that they find Los Angeles as their home, is where they bring their money and their investments.
Sure. And, I know the World Trade Center Association work is associated with the work of the Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation. Tell us how that association works and what is the relationship between the World Trade Center Association and the LA Economic Development Corporation?
Yeah, the World Trade Center Los Angeles is a subsidiary of LAEDC. And so you can think of World Trade Center as an international trade arm for the LA Economic Development Corporation. Basically, LAEDC's focus is really about economic development as a whole for the entire region of Los Angeles, which means that we are using our research department to look at the macroeconomic trends, how that affect our industries that are located here in Los Angeles, and then how those industries are in turn impacting the workers and the communities around Los Angeles, whether it's research, whether it's direct programs working with companies. For example, right now we have our business assistance team as well as our community connectory team working directly to provide services to small and medium-sized companies that are really trying to recover and survive the COVID-19 crisis. So combined together with the international side, you can see how important our work is. So that's basically how the two of them link together. In fact, I actually have 2 jobs. Besides being at the World Trade Center Los Angeles, I also am the Chief Operating Officer at LADC. So our goal is to bring in both jobs and both international and domestic to make sure they flow seamlessly, because we see that Los Angeles as a global city, it doesn't make sense for us to separate the work. It's basically what's domestic, it's international, what's international is domestic.
No, and certainly the work of the LAEDC is very, very important, and particularly during this period of crisis, and helping us all develop a roadmap for moving the region forward. And I know the work of the LADC has been referenced by a number of other guests on our podcast, so we definitely want to speak more to them at another point as well. Let's talk about the global community here in Los Angeles and the size of the global business community. Share your thoughts on the size of the global community here in Los Angeles, the size of global business.
I think a lot of people around the world already know that Los Angeles is the center for a lot of international activities, a lot of international business. But what they don't realize is not only do we feel it's important for international trade to be here, the world sees this as a global center as well. And that's why they have government offices from all over the world opened here in Los Angeles. In fact, LA is actually home to the third largest consular corps in the world, which means that these foreign countries are opening their consular services here to provide visa services and specific services to their diaspora, to their community. There are over 100 countries represented right here in Los Angeles, with about 67 of them are full-time consulates. The rest of them are honorary consulates. Combined together, you can see, you basically, when you come to Los Angeles, you're not only reaching the Southern California region, you're reaching the entire world. So we work very closely with them. We're very happy that so many countries have identified Los Angeles as their second home.
Sure. No, it's a very, very important gateway to the world. Speak to the economic impact of all of this trade and investment, its impact on jobs and opportunity here in the region.
Well, another key aspect of Los Angeles, especially for our international community, sometimes when they think of Los Angeles, they think of Hollywood. All they think about is the entertainment industry, which is a great industry for us. But the trade and logistics sector here and tourism is huge. And so for example, the Los Angeles Customs District is the number one customs district in the United States, with over $430 billion in two-way trade with the rest of the world. And how we're able to achieve that is because we're actually the home to two of the major infrastructure development projects in the entire nation, the Port of Los Angeles and Port of Long Beach. Those two ports combined together are the two largest container ports and the busiest container ports in the Western Hemisphere. So all the goods are coming by ocean into the United States. A lot of it is processed through these two ports, so making us a very valuable and very important player to the rest of the nation. Between just the two ports alone, they impact about 3.3 million jobs nationally. So it's a major economic driver here. And also, when you think of international trade, don't forget that LAX, the airport, is a huge contributor to international trade as well. Because when you're moving passengers, under the passenger seats, their cargo capacity in the planes. So about $100 billion worth of goods come through Los Angeles International Airport every single year. So combined together, this is a mega region for international trade, and that's why the world pays so much attention to this one single region.
No, outstanding. I know, again, through the work of the LADC and the work of the World Trade Center, Los Angeles, information and education are key offerings, for your members and for others who want to access those reports. Recently, you just released a report, actually, on foreign direct investment. What can you share with us from that report and the role of foreign direct investment, not only on the region, but also on the state?
Yeah. So there are a lot of international companies that choose to come to the United States. And when they do, a lot of times they choose Southern California, Los Angeles as their home. Over the last few years, we've been doing a report just to basically get an understanding. Who are they? Where are they located? And so we found that Los Angeles has always been the prime area, but this year we decided to expand that report to cover all of California. So in California, this report found we have over 18,000 foreign-owned enterprises located throughout California. And Los Angeles is one of the biggest center with over 5,000 of these firms. And the reason why it's so important to LADC and to the World Trade Center is because these 5,000 plus firms create over 202,000 direct jobs here locally. So it's a major economic engine, and the more that we attract these companies to locate here, the more good jobs we might be able to have in this region. Some people don't realize, for example, what these companies are, because sometimes they blend in so quickly. But folks forget that, for example, Toyota or Sony came from Japan, or Westfield Mall, originally was from Australia, then now it's converted to a French company. So all these international companies are having huge impact on the local communities.
To the extent that, there are always conversations around, the cost structure of doing business in Los Angeles or the cost structure of California, and companies looking at other locations in the middle of the country, to what extent is that bearing? Do you see any movement beyond LA or beyond California to, lower cost jurisdictions?
It's always a challenge because that's how a lot of the other states and other regions market themselves as a cheaper option than California or Los Angeles. Look, when I go around the world talking to our international partners and attracting these businesses here, I tell them Los Angeles is not always the cheapest location. And if you're looking for cheap, then there are other locations for it, but cheaper is cheaper. Cheaper is not always better. The reason why there is a premium to locating Los Angeles is, for example, we have the number 1 and number 2 container ports in North America. We have the 3rd busiest airport in the United States. You don't have to transfer 6-7 times to get to your destination. And the logistics and the supply chain that's been developed here and our talent pool that's located here makes for a very important market for them to grow in. And don't forget the greater Los Angeles region with the 5 counties combined together, we have about 18.7 million people living here in this region, which also means that you have about 18.7 million consumers. So our population is so much larger than some of the other states. So why locate in any other location? They can actually have a very great success rate here. But the other thing is when these international companies are investing, they're not just basically coming here on their own. They're bringing their entire family over. So for us, we mentioned this earlier, in Los Angeles, there's such a huge diaspora of different people, different cultures. We're welcoming. We are made up of these international people, and their food and their culture is well represented here. So when their families are moving over here, it becomes a very homey feel then in terms of how they're able to adjust to it. Compared to some of the other states in the Midwest, maybe they're not adjusting as well. So all these are factors that combine together that make Los Angeles a much better location than some other states.
Well, you're talking about you've got the economic infrastructure, but you've also got the social infrastructure that makes Los Angeles a thriving global center. Speak to some of the top foreign investment partners for our region. I know many years ago, there were concerns about Japan buying up downtown Los Angeles. Fast forward years later, it was talked about the Chinese buying up downtown Los Angeles and building in downtown Los Angeles. Speak to some of the range of foreign investment partners who've made Los Angeles a home for their capital.
Yeah. Japan has always actually been one of our top investors. In fact, in our report, we found year after year, Japan is still our number 1 foreign investors. And on top of it, a lot of people keep on focusing on China because that's been the last 5-10 years really the focal point for a lot of the media attention because they're making some very splashy investments. Except for the last 2 years, they've dwindled a little bit based on the China trade tariff and also based on President Xi Jinping's China trade policy as well. But people forget that the UK, France, Germany, a lot of our European partners actually are also top investors here. They're usually within the top 5. Combined with our friends over in Canada, those are some of the top players. So we have a lot of diversity when it comes to different types of countries and different types of companies coming in here. And right now we're going through some challenges with COVID-19, but over the last 5 years, our European partners and our Canadian partners have been investing heavily in Los Angeles.
And certainly, while foreign direct investment is a principal activity of the World Trade Center Los Angeles, supporting exports is also an important aspect of international trade. What does World Trade Center Los Angeles do in the area of export development?
Yeah, when it comes to international trade, you really have to divide it into multiple categories. Foreign direct investment is a key component, but import-export also are very important to that equation as well. And Los Angeles being one of the largest customs districts, obviously we handle a lot of imports. The other thing that we really need to focus on is how do we export our product internationally. So the export side is going to be very important. We usually work very closely with our partners at the LA Chamber of Commerce and also Port of Los Angeles, Port of Long Beach, and also the U.S. Department of Commerce with their USIAC centers, their U.S. Export Assistance Centers. So what we do is we find out about these inquiries of exports and basically partner with these other organizations to provide them with the information and the services that are necessary for them to reach international markets. Right now, the U.S. Department of Commerce have been doing a number of different export seminars so that companies here locally can find out what the export potentials are for them. As e-commerce is increasing basically over the last 2 years, but really after COVID-19, that's becoming a very strong, viable way for them to find new markets. This is becoming more and more important, and that's why the U.S. Department of Commerce has been such a great partner for us.
No, you touched on it right just now about the impact of COVID-19. Certainly, in doing any business, it's about building relationships. And certainly international business, it's about building those connections with people that you get to know, like, trust, respect, et cetera. And, that's so important in this cross-border environment. How's your work being adjusted to deal with COVID-19 in terms of helping to continue to build those critical cross-border relationships?
The transactions themselves have decreased significantly. I think that's going to be true across the world right now. However, I think, especially for those partners that we've been working with, they see that this is even more important than ever, a very special time for us to make sure we strengthen the partnership that we built before. So when we're in the recovery mode, we have everything lined up and ready to go. So a lot of our time right now is spent on reconnecting with some of our partners, whether it's in New Zealand, in Australia, in Berlin, in Japan. We'll continue to work very closely with them to start talking about some of the possibilities in the future. So one example is the 2021 Olympic Games in Tokyo. Originally, it's supposed to be this year in 2020.
Right.
And there's a lot of great synergy and partnership because LA will be hosting the 2028 Olympic Games. So there's a lot that we can learn from them, especially when it comes to sustainability. So rather than basically waiting for COVID to reside and then basically try to restart those relationships, we'll start developing the conversations right now about, for example, what is the hydrogen fuel cell technology going to look like in Tokyo? So in the future, when we're ready for it, duplicate and maybe imitate some of the great successes that Japan's having right now. So those conversations need to be happening right now. We're talking not only with the business organizations, but also with the government and the private sector as well. So these are the important work that a lot of the international partners are spending a lot of time to make sure that the content is there. So when the business is ready to return, then they can pick up where we left off before.
No, I see. Well, and I know, each summer, World Trade Center puts on a signature event called Select LA, which is a major opportunity to showcase the important work going on around this region to potential foreign investors. And this event is actually, taking place soon. I think we're airing on the 23rd, and your event's taking place on the 24th. Can you tell us about Select Los Angeles?
Yeah, Select LA is an event that evolved when Select USA was started in Washington, D.C. by President Obama's administration. So the idea is to bring international companies and to sell them why they should invest in the United States. And all the other sub-regions and states would go to Washington, D.C. to compete with each other for those business. And we decided in Los Angeles to start our own Select LA Investment Summit right before Select USA as a spin-off event.
Okay.
And the reason is a lot of our investors are flying in from all over the world to go to Washington, D.C. And some of them can't fly direct into Washington, D.C., like our friends from Asia. So why not basically while they're doing a stopover to do an event to promote Los Angeles first before they even go to D.C. so that we can beat them to the punch.
Great thinking.
That worked out really, really well. And over the last few years, it's been increasing. We have about 500 plus visitors from international and domestic businesses that are basically gathering every single year to network, to learn about the investment opportunities, and to basically work on those transactions. Unfortunately, this year, we can't do it physically, so we have partnered with Select USA to do a roadshow. And our focus this year is going to be in September 24th, is on the sustainability sector here in Los Angeles, showcasing, for example, our renewable energy sector, our ocean economy. AltaSea is a great project over the Port of Los Angeles showing the impact of ocean and what that means to our industry. So all those highlights are going to be here, and we're going to have matchmaking sessions with people from around the world, all virtually. So if they want to find out more information, they just have to go to our website at WTCLA.org, and they can find out and they can sign up for free.
Excellent. So again, Select LA is taking place September 24th, and we go to WTCLA.org to find out more. That's great. And who participates, and how many participants are you expecting?
Well, this year it's going to be hard to adjust and to tell, but we're hoping to be able to get around the same number, maybe 500-600 participants, and most of them are going to be from some of our partners from some of the countries that we mentioned already, from Japan, from Canada, from Australia, from China, and so the idea is to really showcase what we have here, and then afterwards they can learn more by setting up individual meetings with some of the local experts to really transition them into this investment process. So we'll see. Basically,
Right.
things are changing so quickly that everything is going virtual. We really don't know what to expect in terms of the numbers anymore.
And how many years have you been doing this? I'm interested to know, are there any successes that you can point to where, a businessman or woman has come through the Select LA program and some years later decided to establish an operation? Are there any success stories you can share?
Yeah, this is our 6th year doing so. So we've actually had quite a lot of those success stories, whether it's the small companies or the larger companies as well. But I would say that through our partnership, I mentioned before, New Zealand, although it might seem like a small country, but for us is one of a very important partner because of their willingness. As an island nation, they know that their success is really depending on international partnership.
Right.
So we had companies that are coming over here making products that are exported from New Zealand, from Auckland, and then basically one of the companies are using organic feminine hygiene products that are healthy, safe, and sustainable, and they're entering this market a couple years ago through the Select LA program.
Interesting.
Once they learned about basically the opportunities that are here and the similarity in terms of the market size and the demand for it, they were able to enter this market very quickly and expand. So small businesses are benefiting greatly. At the same time, we are seeing some of the larger companies are expanding. World Trade Center has been working with a number of different operations, and one of the largest clients that we've ever worked with is actually BYD, the electric bus manufacturer. So years ago, we started courting them and working with them before they even considered locating in Los Angeles.
I think they were originally just here to produce buses, correct?
They were originally here to produce cars.
Okay.
It was electric cars.
Okay.
And then once they got here, they decided to switch their operation and manufacture electric buses. So now in Lancaster, they have a operations center and a manufacturing center with over 700 jobs that are created
Wow.
for the local community. And they're securing contracts with LA Metro, with actually a lot of places around the nation, and the manufacturing base and their North American headquarters is right here in Los Angeles.
Excellent, excellent. With so many countries, focusing inward, obviously, and focusing on getting through the pandemic, how are you working, to strengthen and build these cross-border collaborations and other partnerships? And what types of new partnership opportunities are you looking for to carry out your work?
Yeah, we definitely have been needing to get our message out a lot more. So as soon as COVID-19 really hit the Los Angeles region after March 19th, when we had the stay-at-home order, we partnered with the World Affairs Council in Los Angeles and created a series of education seminars and webinars. And we invited partners from the Port of Los Angeles, from Air China, from the consulates from Mexico and Japan, the consul generals of Mexico and Canada talked about the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement to really educate the public in terms of the trade policies and the impact that has on our local communities. So these partnerships have created additional opportunities. So we had a seminar with the Consul General of Israel. And from that seminar, we were able to reach some of our Israeli tech companies that are very much interested in entering this market, especially as they're developing new COVID technology and telehealth and telemedicine services. So these connections, whenever we're able to tell our story internationally, it's reaching the right audience, because we need to basically market to the rest of the world that Los Angeles is open for business. Despite what's happening with COVID-19, there's still a vibrant market. And some people right now, because of the pandemic, they're really looking inward. It's our job to basically make sure that they don't isolate themselves, that they expand their operation to consider us as an international partner.
In some respects, you can think that during crisis breeds opportunity. So there may be some tremendous global opportunities, particularly if we can connect people. And I'm just interested because so much of this work is going on through Zoom and WebEx, et cetera. I wonder how are we connecting with countries and regions which may not have as strong technology bandwidth, shall we say?
Well, I think a lot of countries are really quickly catching up with the technology bandwidth. They know that their survival depends on it, so they're investing more. But speaking of technology connection, we need to do a much better job here in Los Angeles as well, because we know the broadband access is not equal throughout the entire region. So one of our hopes is to basically work with our international partners as well as domestic partners to see how do we make sure that we bridge this digital divide. How do we make sure that we have broadband access access spread across Los Angeles, despite basically their income level or their socioeconomic status. And that's something that I think is a huge focus for LADC and World Trade Center as well. But internationally, I think a lot of countries are very much adjusted to the Zoom culture, and they're able to connect with us virtually, which is actually somewhat better for us because that takes away our need to travel everywhere, because a lot of my job is actually traveling around the world to sell Los Angeles and not having to get on the plane for 12 hours for a day of meetings. It's actually saving a lot of time.
And money as well.
Yes.
So, and that's a huge issue. I had this very conversation with a former associate down in South Africa. And of course, everyone needs to be as connected as possible. And, bandwidth is going to be the key driver of economic success going forward in this connectivity. As we move forward, what are your thoughts on the work of the World Trade Center Los Angeles, and how might that evolve post-pandemic? You talked about not having to get on a plane and travel for 12 hours now. So, how do you see the work evolving to foster these connections and to carry out your work?
I think we're all adjusting and learning from this experience. Although I think we are saving a lot of time by not having to travel, people-to-people connection, the direct connection, cannot be replaced. We found that it's
right.
The virtual aspect is nice, it's great, but I think you're going to see down the line, those transactions are not always going to come through based on Zoom calls alone. You still need to do some in-person interactions, because building trust and building this partnership that we've had with all these countries that we mentioned before, it didn't come overnight and didn't come via telephone or Zoom calls before. It had to be done in person. So I think there's still a human level there. And I think we're going to have to adjust a little bit. Eventually, we're going to have to travel again. It's not going to be as much. I think a lot of people will be adjusting to that new paradigm. But still, I think that in-person touch is going to be necessary.
When do you think there'll be an outbound trade delegation from Los Angeles to the world?
That's a really sore topic for us, because that's one of the key components of our work, to basically bring our delegation internationally to showcase it. Our hope was actually in 2020, around this time, to go to Tokyo after the Olympic Games to really start pitching the business opportunities that are there. So we're hoping next year is going to be the case. However, looking at our partners in the airline industries, they've already told us that it's going to be at least 2 years before they can start looking at the recovery aspect of things. And LAX, for example, in the first month or two of the COVID-19 crisis, their volume dropped 93, 96%.
Right.
And right now is a bit better, right? But it's still 60% down from the year before. So it's going to be a long time before we can do so. And unless we get our COVID-19 infection rates under control, we're still banned from a lot of other countries. They don't want us.
Right. Speak to, Los Angeles is really, really in a fortunate position. We've got a Super Bowl coming up. We've got, a Major League Baseball All-Star game coming up in a couple of years, next year, I think. 2026, I think Los Angeles will participate in the World Cup, and then, of course, the 2028. Can you speak to these two global events in 2026 and 2028 and the potential impact and opportunity for our region?
Well, we always knew that Los Angeles was quickly becoming the global and the national center for sports entertainment, with the arrival or the comeback of our NFL partners with the Rams and the Chargers. And don't forget the LA Football Club, the Galaxy, the Dodgers, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Sparks, and all of these great capacity that are here. And I'm not even mentioning kind of our college football teams and sports team as well. So Los Angeles was always going to be that key connector and key player when it comes to international as well as sports. And so these
no
two
pun
games,
intended, key player.
Yes. But our focus was really on the 2026 and 2028, because this is going to be such a great avenue for us to tell our story. And the fact that we're able to secure the Olympic Games, because we don't have to make those investments the way that a lot of other cities do. The 1984 Olympic Games, for example, was the only Olympic game in modern history to be profitable. And so that's why this is a great model for us to look at in terms of how we can duplicate that and how to make sure that we continue to thrive in that. So with that, the opportunities come in multiple categories. Technology. That's going to be basically where we're going to go. If you look at the last time we had Olympic Games in the United States, it's actually Salt Lake City. And before that, it was Atlanta.
Right.
We didn't have Facebook or Twitter. And so the communication strategy was completely different. So can you imagine in 8 years what the technology advances will be? So we need to look at 5G technology and basically what that means and all the communication that's going to happen. Mobility, basically how do people get from point A to point B? With Measure M going forward, with all the rail connectivity, with the red line, with the purple line, with everything that's going to be connected with UCLA and the LAX, it's going to be great. But people will want to basically also use their mobile devices for ticketless mobile entry, for other type of entertainment as well. So all these will be all tied in together. So cybersecurity, blockchain technology, marketing and sales, facial recognition, those are all the technology that will be developed, need to be developed before 2028, before 2026.
We've got 5 years to get it together.
Yeah, quite a lot to do.
Wow, that's a lot to think about, Stephen. But I've been here 16 years, and it really is, quite something to see the evolution of this city and this region on the global front. And I think we sort of talk about entertainment, which we love the entertainment industry, but I think, you hit on a sector that I personally just think is just outstanding for our region. That's the sports economy and how sports also serves the purpose of bringing people together around the globe. So it's going to be a tremendous opportunity for Los Angeles in 2026 and 2028 to welcome the world to this region, for sure.
It will be, but let me add another component to this. Because of the sports entertainment network that's created, we're seeing another phenomenon that's growing right here in Los Angeles, the esports and gaming phenomenon. With COVID-19, a lot of more people are connected virtually with the gaming sector. And right before COVID-19 hit, the esports sector was growing tremendously because now people want to watch competitions live. So the LA Football Club was hosting, kind of these events, and the same thing can be done at the Staples Center and at the LA Coliseum with multiple locations, right? On top of it, this is the part that's very exciting about Los Angeles, where you can have multiple industries and sectors come together. The spaces that are not utilized for sports games can now be utilized for concerts. Don't forget BTS, the K-pop sensation, came to the Rose Bowl, and within, minutes? Sold out.
Yeah.
And they sold out so well that in the second day, they decided to do it in the second day. They sold that out within seconds as well. And so the last major group to be able to sell out the Rose Bowl was U2. And now we're seeing all these international sensations are happening right here in Los Angeles. So when COVID-19 is hopefully gone, we're going to be able to do a lot more when it comes to entertainment.
No, that's great. Clearly, LA is on the global rise for sure. Stephen, this has been a great conversation, and we're really, really excited about the work that you are doing and the work that the LAEDC is doing and the team that you all have in place to carry out this important work on behalf of the region. But before you leave, this is a podcast about LA and leaders who are moving LA forward. So we'd like to get a sense of your Los Angeles. So we have a few lightning round questions to wind down our conversation. And as we always say, there are no right or wrong answers, just a few lightning round questions to get a sense of what do you do when you're not advancing LA's global position. Where are you from originally?
I was born in Hong Kong. I moved to Hacienda Heights when I was about 8 years old.
Which neighborhood do you live in currently?
La Crescenta.
Mobility, you talked about mobility a while ago. Uber, Lyft, yellow cab, bike, bus, walk, metro, or scooter?
Scooter. I loved the scooter experience because you're able to get from place to place very quickly.
So you're telling us that you scooter from La Crescenta to downtown LA with
No.
LAEDC?
I work in downtown, so basically that's it. But
Okay.
I cannot scooter down the freeway.
Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, or Hulu?
All of the above.
Favorite LA restaurant or two?
Mario's Peruvian on Rossmore and Melrose. They have the best marisco desatado.
Okay. Favorite spot to take a visitor to LA?
Norton Simon Museum. It's a small little museum that's underrated. I love the atmosphere, and it has a great collection.
And give a shout out to Pasadena since it's in Pasadena.
Yes, it's in Pasadena.
Lakers or Clippers?
As a representative of Los Angeles, both. I cannot pick.
Okay, Rams or Chargers?
Both as well.
Well, that new SoFi Stadium just opened
That's
yesterday,
right.
so we're really excited about that. Favorite park in Los Angeles?
I think I'm going to have to give a shout out to kind of my region, my area as well. People don't really go there that much, but there's a place called Deukmejian State Park up in La Crescenta, Glendale area. It's a hidden little gem with the great hikes.
Bruins or Trojans?
Bruins, definitely. I'm a double Bruin myself, so sorry, I have to pick on that one.
Well, Stephen, this has been great. We really appreciate our conversation with you today. We appreciate the work of the World Trade Center Los Angeles, and hopefully we can have you on again as we discuss all the progress that LA is making post-COVID as we prepare to welcome the world to Los Angeles in 2026 and 2028. Stephen, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Dwayne.
We appreciate it. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this program, and we hope you join us next week as we look forward to another great conversation about moving Los Angeles forward. Until we meet again, stay strong, get involved. To learn more about Civitas LA and share feedback on this program, or if you have a recommendation about future programs, please visit our website at www.civitasla.com. And we hope you'll connect with us on social media, on Facebook at Civitas LA, Instagram at Civitas_LA, and Twitter at Civitas_LA.